Hello and welcome to Worldview, one program that keeps you updated on training developments the world over. Let's start with the headlines that we have for you today. Iran says US must rule out more strikes before talks resumes. At least 71 people killed in Israel's attack on Tehran's Evin prison. Bus crash kills 38 in Tanzania. We'll bring you details of the stories and more on Worldview today. Many thanks for joining us today on Worldview. We begin today from the Middle East, where Palestinians in northern Gaza reported one of the worst nights of Israeli bombardment in weeks after the military issued mass evacuation orders today, while Israeli officials were due in Washington for a new ceasefire push by Trump's administration. Meanwhile, this comes a day after US President Donald Trump urged an end to the 20-month-old war. A confidant of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was suspected at the White House for talks on a Gaza ceasefire, Iran, and possible wider regional diplomatic deals. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was due to hold talks later in today on the progress of Israel's offensive. A senior security official said the military would tell him the campaign is close to reaching its objectives and warned that expanding fighting to new areas in Gaza may endanger the remaining Israeli hostages. Still in the Middle East, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Majid Takit Ravanchi told newsmen that diplomatic talks between Washington and Tehran cannot resume unless the US rules out further strikes on Iran. Majid Ravanchi told the British broadcaster that the US had signaled it wants to return to the negotiating table a week after it struck three Iranian nuclear facilities. Ravanchi further said they have not agreed to any date, they have not agreed to any modality, and right now they are seeking an answer to these questions. Are they going to see a repetition of an act of aggression while they are engaging in dialogue? The US needed to be quite clear on their very important question, he said. Meanwhile, Berlin urged Iran to stop making threats against the UN nuclear watchdog after Tehran rejected its request to visit nuclear facilities bombed by Israel and the United States. Tehran has accused Rafael Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, of betrayal of his duties for not condemning the Israeli and US strikes on Iran's nuclear site, and Iranian lawmakers this week voted to suspend cooperation with the agency. German Foreign Minister Johann Waderful said on X, without specifying further, that the Command's Director General Rafael Grossi and his team for their efforts and their unrelenting professionalism. Threats against them from within Iran are deeply troubling and must stop. He also called on the Iranian authorities to fully cooperate with the IAEA and to ensure the safety of its personnel, he added. Meanwhile, on Friday, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said on X that Grossi's insistence on visiting the bombed site under the pretext of safeguard is meaningless and possibly even malign in intent. Still in Iran, UN nuclear watchdog Chief Rafael Grossi says Iran likely will be able to begin to produce enriched uranium in a matter of months, despite damage to several nuclear facilities from US and Israeli attacks. Israel launched a bombing campaign on Iranian nuclear military site on June 13th, saying it was aimed at keeping Iran from developing a nuclear weapon, an ambition the Islamic Republic has consistently denied. The United States subsequently bombed three key facilities used for Tehran's atomic program. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says the extent of the damage to the nuclear site is serious, but the details are unknown. US President Donald Trump insisted Iran's nuclear program had been set back a decade. Meanwhile, the uranium in question is enriched to 60% above levels for civilian usage, but still below weapons grade. The material, if further refined, could theoretically be sufficient to produce more than 9 nuclear bombs. In a sad development, dozens of staff members, two inmates, and a bystander were among the casualties of Israel's attack last week on Tehran's Evin prison, a notorious facility where many political prisoners and dissidents have been held. The death toll from the strike was released by Iran's judiciary and confirmed by human rights groups as the 1 week mark of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran approaches, despite suspicion on both sides about whether the truce will hold. Judiciary spokesperson Ashgar Jahangir posted on the official website that at least 71 people were killed by the strikes, including staff, soldiers, prisoners, and members of visiting families. While officials did not provide a breakdown of the casualty figures, the Washington based human rights activists in Iran said at least 35 were staff members and two were inmates. Others killed included a person working in the prison vicinity and a woman who went to meet a judge about her imprisoned husband's case, the organization said. In the meantime, London's High Court ruled today that Britain's decision to allow the export of F-35 fighter jet components to Israel, despite accepting they could be used in breach of international humanitarian law in Gaza, was lawful. Al-Hid, a group based in Israeli-occupied West Bank, had taken legal action against Britain's Department for Business and Trade over its decision to exempt F-35 parts when it suspended some arms export license last year. The United Kingdom assessed Israel was not committed to complying with international humanitarian law in relation to humanitarian access and the treatment of detainees. In Israel's ongoing military campaign in response to Hamas' October 2023 attack. Let's move now to the Ukraine and Russia war scene where, according to local authorities, a Ukrainian F-16 fighter pilot died in a crash while repelling a Russian air attack that involved hundreds of drones, cruise and ballistic missiles as Moscow intensified nighttime air barrages in the fourth year of war. President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the pilot, Maskim Ustimenko, and bestowed upon him posthumously the title of Hero of Ukraine, the country's highest decoration. He also called for more support from Washington and Western allies to bolster Ukraine's air defenses after the attack, which damaged homes and infrastructure across the country and injured at least 12 people. In the meantime, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he had signed a decree to pull Ukraine out of the Ottawa Convention banning the production and use of anti-personnel mines as a necessary step in view of Russia's tactic in their 40-month-old war. Ukraine ratified the convention in 2005. Other countries bordering Russia, notably Finland, Poland, and the three ex-Soviet Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, have neither withdrawn from the convention or indicated that they would do so. Zelensky said in his nightly video address that Russia had never been a party to the convention and is using anti-personnel mines with utmost cynicism along with other weapons including ballistic missile. In the meantime, German Foreign Ministry said today that German Foreign Minister Joanna Waterfall has arrived in Kiev to discuss support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. Waterfall said in a statement that they will continue to stand firmly by Ukraine's side so that it can continue to defend itself successfully with modern air defense and other weapons with humanitarian and economic aid. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky called for help from Washington and Western allies to bolster Ukraine's air defenses after a Russian attack on Sunday that involved hundreds of drones, cruise, and ballistic missiles. Germany is Ukraine's second biggest military backer after the United States, whose commitment to Kiev has been called into question, putting pressure on Europe to step up. Away from that, a collision between a bus and a minibus in Tanzania has killed 38 people after both vehicles were set on fire by the crash, the presidency said on Sunday. The accident in Sabasaba in Kilimanjaro region on Saturday evening occurred after one of the bus tires punctured, causing the driver to lose control. A total of 38 people died in the crash, including two women. A presidency statement said, adding that 28 others were wounded. However, due to the extent of the burns, 36 bodies remain unidentified. The presidency said six of the injured were still in hospital for treatment. It could be recalled that deadly crashes were frequent on Tanzania Road. In 2018, according to a report, the World Health Organization estimated that 13,000 to 19,000 people in Tanzania were killed in traffic accidents in 2016, far higher than the government's official toll of 3,256. Elsewhere, U.S. authorities found the body of a lone gunman suspected of starting a wildfire, then shooting at firefighters tackling the blaze in the northwestern state of Idaho, killing two. The suspected shooter was found dead with a firearm on Canfield Mountain in Kootenai County, a popular park and hiking area, following an hours-long standoff as the fire raged. Based on preliminary information, the belief that the belief that was the only shooter, Kootenai County Sheriff Robert Norris told the news conference, adding there was no threat to the community at this time. Norris also said authorities believed that the fire was intentional without providing details on the shooter's identity. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll take a look at the Sudan gold mine collapse, which killed 11 people. Stay tuned for these and many more right after the breather. Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's turn the spotlight to Africa now, where the state mining company in Sudan has said that a partial collapse of a traditional gold mine has killed 11 miners and wounded 7 others in a war-torn Sudan's northeast. Since war erupted between Sudan's regular army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) in April 2023, both sides' war efforts have been largely funded by Sudan's gold industry. According to official and NGO sources, nearly all of the gold trade is funneled through the United Arab Emirates, widely accused of arming the RSF. In a statement, the Sudanese Mineral Resources Company SMRC said that the collapse occurred in an artisanal shaft in the Krish Alfield mine in the remote desert area of Sudan's northeast Red Sea state. In this next report, the UN agency warned that it faces having to make drastic cuts to life-saving food assistance, which may grind to a halt in the Central African Republic, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Libya in the coming months as resources runs out. WFP noted that the situation for many Sudanese refugees is already dire more than 2 years since war erupted between Sudan's National Army and the paramilitary rebels. In Uganda, many vulnerable refugees are surviving on less than 500 calories a day, less than a quarter of daily nutritional need, as new arrivals strain refugee support system, WFP said. In Chad, which hosts almost a quarter of 4 million refugees who fled Sudan, food rations will be reduced in the coming month without new contributions. Still in Africa, Algeria's authorities have sentenced a prominent French sports journalist specialized in African football to 7 years in prison for glorifying terrorism, Mehdi, a rights campaigner's RSF said, denouncing the verdict as nonsensical. Christopher Iglesias, aged 36, who contributes to the Cecil Foot magazine, was ordered by the court in Tizi Ouzou to be immediately incarcerated and will apply the ruling today, Reporters Without Borders said. The group said that he was now being unjustly convicted and imprisoned for simply doing his job. We move now to India, where at least 8 people were killed and 26 others injured, some seriously today, in a reactor blast inside a chemical factory in the southern Indian state of Telangana, police said. The blast took place in Pashamlaram industrial area of Patancheru, Sangareddy district, about 48 kilometers northwest of Hyderabad, the capital city of Telangana. Police suspected death toll may increase given the critical condition of some of the injured. Reports say around 150 workers were present inside the factory at the time of the blast. Preliminary investigation carried out by the police revealed that the reactor exploded during routine operations at the factory, triggering a massive fire and thus prompting emergency response team to rush to the site. Television images showed columns of thick black smoke rising from the factory. Away from that, police arrested more than 50 people in Istanbul Sunday ahead of a banned LGBTQ plus pride march, the city's bar association said. The Istanbul's Bar's Human Rights Center posted on X that before the Istanbul Pride March, 4 of our colleagues, including members of their Human Rights Center, along with more than 50 people, were deprived of their liberty through arbitrary, unjust, and illegal detention early Sunday. Police also arrested protesters in the central Ortakya district. Meanwhile, once a lively affair with thousands of marchers, Istanbul Pride has been banned each year since 2015 by Turkey's ruling conservative government. Istanbul's governor, Davut Gül, warned in X on Saturday that this cause, which undermines social peace, family structure, and moral values, are prohibited. No gathering or march that threatens public order will be tolerated, he added. On environmental matters, major heat waves across southern Europe have pushed temperature above 104 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 40 degrees Celsius in countries including Italy, Spain, and Greece, as local authorities issued fresh warnings against the risks of wildfires. Experts link the rising frequency and intensity of these heat waves to climate change, warning that such extreme weather events are becoming increasingly common across Europe's southern region. Severe heat waves were recorded in Italy, Greece, Spain, and Portugal before the weekend, with locals and tourists alike taking shelters from threatening conditions. Two-thirds of Portugal were on high alert on Sunday for extreme heat and wildfires, with temperatures expected to top 107 Fahrenheit, that is 42 Celsius in Lisbon. In Italy, a few regions, Lazio, Tuscany, Calabria, Puglia, and Umbria, were planning to ban some outdoor work activities during the hottest hours of the day in response to the record high temperatures. Italian trade unions pushed the government to expand such measures at a national level. On Sunday, the Italy Health Ministry placed 21 out of 27 monitored cities under its highest heat alert, including top holiday destinations like Rome, Milan, and Naples. In a separate development, many of the world's nations are gathering starting today in Spain for a high-level conference to tackle the growing gap between the rich and the poor nations and try to drum up trillions of dollars needed to close it. The United States, previously a major contributor, pulled its participation, so finding funding would be tough. The four-day financing for development meeting in southern city of Seville is taking place as many countries face escalating debt burdens, declining investment, decreasing international aid, and increasing trade barriers. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in his opening comment at the conference that financing is the energy of development. And right now, the energy is sputtering. They are here in Sevilla to change course, to repair and wrap up the energy of the engine of development to accelerate investment at the scale and speed required. The UN and Spain, the conference co-hosts, believe the meeting is an opportunity to reverse the downward spiral, close the staggering $4 trillion annual financing gap to promote development, bring millions of people out of poverty, and help achieve the UN's wide-ranging and badly lagging sustainable development goals for 2030. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez told delegates as he inaugurated the conference that the government of Spain believes that this summit is an opportunity for US to change course, for US to raise their voices in the face of those who seek to convince US that rivalries and competition will set the tone for humanity and for its future. Last in the news at this hour, firefighters battle wildfires in Turkey and France today as an early heatwave hits the region. In Turkey, wildfires raged for a second day in the western province of Izmir, fanned by strong winds, Forestry Minister Ibrahim Yumakli said, forcing the evacuation of four village and two town neighborhoods. Make sense of the latest ESG trends affecting companies and government with Newsman Sustainable Switch report. And that's all we have for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Emma John James, and you've been watching Worldview on Spectrum Television. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for watching.